Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third quarter ARRL Roanoke Division Town Hall. I'm the Vice Director of the Roanoke Division, Bill Marine, N2COP. We have a very special program tonight, and I hope you'll stick around because it is going to be chock full of useful information, and we'll also address one of the most salient issues of our time. Relief of antenna restrictions. But first, let's introduce everybody that you'll see tonight, including your elected officials in the Roanoke Division, our director, and our 4 section managers. First, do we have Dr. Jim Boner?
And how is everybody?
There he is.
Good to be here. And Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Good to have you coming in tonight for your home QTH in South Carolina. We appreciate that very much. Speaking of South Carolina, let's bring in South Carolina Section Manager Matthew Cook, W1MRC. Hello, Matthew.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here.
And thank you, too. By the way, Matthew and I are Red Sox fans. We are very happy right now. And let's move down and find our North Carolina Section Manager, Marv Hoffman, WA4NC. Good evening, Marv.
Good evening to everyone. Welcome to the high country.
And they're at 3,700 feet. I'm just getting a nosebleed even thinking about it, Marv. So, and last, let's see.
It's foggy.
We have coming to us from West Virginia, Dan Ringer, K8WV. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, all, and welcome to Almost Heaven. So I guess that would be higher than North Carolina high country, I think.
Good to have you on board. And last but not least, Virginia Section Manager, Jack Smith, KE4LWT. Jack, good evening to you.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be here. Hope this proves to be as informative as I think it will be. Thank you.
All right. And we'll be hearing later from the section managers and what's going on in each of the 4 sections inside the Roanoke Division. But first, we have a very special guest tonight joining us. From Texas is John Robert Stratton, N5AUS. John is an attorney in Austin, Texas. He's also the West Gulf Director for ARRL. But most importantly, John has been heading up the legislative effort to get the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act passed. And so we are just delighted to have you tonight with us, John.
Bill and Jim, thank you for inviting me.
So we've got lots of questions because those who are ARRL members know that in the last week, the grassroots campaign was introduced to try and get this legislation passed. Why is the campaign starting now, John?
It's a matter of timing. We have been working through, we'll back up. Congress has sessions that last 2 years each. The effort to get this bill passed, to go back in history and explain where we are now, started in 2014. The League introduced a bill. It passed the House, the U.S. House, on a voice vote with 200 sponsors. It was killed in the Senate by a senator. It was reintroduced in 2016. It passed the House on a voice vote with 200 sponsors. It was killed in the Senate by a senator, same one, by the way. So we pulled the bill and started working in 2019 with our regular sponsors to come up with a bill that had better, stronger language for amateur radio, would better protect amateur radio. From 2019 until 2022, we worked with sponsors to clarify the language and get the language approved by our key sponsors in Congress and then reviewed by the FCC. The bill was introduced in 2022 by Congressman Bill Johnson out of Ohio. But by the time we got everyone to agree, it was introduced in December of the last year of that session. So the bill died, but like all bills die at the end of that session. It was reintroduced in 2023, and we've been working since then to pick up more sponsors. And we are at a point now with the sponsors that we need to bring in grassroots support to convince them that as meritorious as the bill may be, that they actually have people out in the voting area who will support them. I mean, congressmen and senators get elected on two things: money and votes. The league is a 501c3 and can't donate money to candidates, but we can produce voters. So the purpose of the campaign is now to bring in as many of the 750,000 licensed amateur radio operators in the country to write a letter to their congressmen and senators going, we want this bill passed. So that's the reason it started. The timing was just, we reached that point where we needed to do it.
And John, I understand that what makes this grassroots campaign unique to ARRL is that it's designed for outreach to all licensed U.S. amateur radio operators, not just ARRL members. Is that correct?
It's not just the campaign. We have about, I think, as end of last month, 115,000 full members of the league. There are 750,000 licensees. But the league doesn't exist just for the people who are members. The league has a charter from Hiram Percy Maxim from 1914. We're here to protect and promote all of amateur radio. It doesn't matter if you're a member. It's our job to keep amateur radio alive. And the reason this bill came up, or the reason we're introducing it, because amateur radio is at risk of dying. So no, the campaign is not just for members. Any amateur radio licensee is affected by this bill, whether they live in an HOA with restrictions or they do not. So no, the request bill that we're sending out, it's a good question, is that we're asking all licensed amateurs to go to the website you got posted at the bottom, sendaletter.org/HOA, enter your call sign, only your ARRL, only your FCC amateur radio call sign. When you do that, the site automatically populates the data fields. When you hit the big red button, there really is a big red button. It will generate your letters to your congressman, congresswoman, and to your two senators. Those letters will then be hand-delivered to your congressman, congresswoman, and your senators by the legislative staff in D.C.
And you raise a good point, John, which is that ARRL's charter is to really represent amateur radio, meaning Part 97 of the FCC. And yes, there are other radio services that may be hampered by private antenna restrictions, such as GMRS, FRS, but they cannot use this particular tool because it's geared around only amateur radio call signs. Is that correct?
That's correct. Can you click on, if that's a live website where it says, what do my letters say? Click here. That's the actual letter. And it identifies, I'm one of your constituents and I'm an FCC licensed amateur radio operator. That is a letter. You don't have to be a league member. It just says I'm a licensed operator. If we permit people with other call signs like GMRS to enter a call sign on this website and generate these letters, we've got a problem, because the people who oppose us are checking our work. And if they or someone in Congress finds out that we gave them a letter from someone who's not a licensed amateur radio operator, they will accuse us of fraud, assaulting the mine, and the work we spent since 2014, and particularly since 2019, will be gone. You can't lose the reputation for truth and integrity. So we've been partially surprised. There have been a lot of people who aren't hams who said, how can we help? Wives, friends, girlfriends have asked, public citizens have asked, GMRS licensees have said, how can we help? You can't go to this website. If you're a GMRS user and you enter your call sign, the website is smarter than Bill and I are, and it will strip your call sign, because we can't afford to have an improper call sign show up in front of Congress. To deal with that, we're creating a separate website for GMRS users. Once it's set up, and it'll be 2 days before we get done. Once it's set up, anyone with a GMRS call sign can go to that website, enter their call sign, it'll populate the fields, identify their congressman, their senators, and there'll be a letter just for them. It says, it won't say I'm an amateur radio operator. It will identify them as supporters of amateur radio. We're also setting up a Spanish language website. We've had requests from our members in licensees in Puerto Rico and some other states, could we give them a Spanish language site? And that will also be set up in a couple of days.
And John and Brad, if you wouldn't mind, Brad is Humphrey's our producer. We'll give him a shout out at the end tonight. What the folks are seeing now on the screen is for individuals who wish to make their wishes known to Congressman. There's the other part of the campaign that clubs and groups are also encouraged to reach out. But that's a slightly different process.
Slightly, but let me explain it. There are 2,900 clubs, affiliated clubs in the United States. There are even more than that are affiliated. What we've learned from talking to people in Congress, as much as they want Dan Ringer's letter or Mr. Hoffman's letter, they also like hearing from groups, and clubs represent groups. They may be 5, they may be 500. We've got some 500 plus clubs in this country. So what we've decided to do is ask each club to generate a letter and deliver it to us, and we deliver it to Congress, because that represents a group. You get people from Virginia, West Virginia sending in their letters, but we give them letters from the clubs in Virginia, West Virginia going, hi, these people want to do this. We have been distributing the instructions and the draft letters for the clubs to use through the section managers and through the directors. To make this easier, we're setting up another website. It will go live probably tomorrow, the worst case 2 days from now. And it will have all the instructions for the clubs and the letter. The letter is a version of the individual letter, and it's drafted to reflect that it's coming from a club in that congressman or senator's area.
I've got one more procedural question, John, before we get into the real content of what the purpose of the bill is. And that is there a deadline in this campaign?
6 weeks ago. The serious answer is no. This campaign, the letters that we're generating will be to start delivering to Congress in about a week. It's a huge coordination problem because what we've represented is we're hand delivering them. If everyone in the country wanted to mail a letter to Congress, go ahead. That letter's going to go to a facility, I believe, in Virginia. It's going to be tested for anthrax and everything else. It takes 6 weeks minimum, and then it goes to Congress, and then will go in a steady state. So we couldn't control getting a volume delivery of letters. If you send an email, welcome to the 5 million emails I get every week. Those emails would get lost. So in order to get across to congressmen and senators that there really is a group of people who are important to the nation and who want this bill passed, we're hand delivering the letters. Give you an example of the impact of this in 2014 to 16, when we had the old ARRL bill. We were generating letters by having Bill Marine go to a Hamfest or club meeting with a laptop. You'd come up, enter your information. He'd print a letter, you'd sign it, and it would come to our legislative teams. That was slow. We managed in the best year to generate 30,000 letters. Using the modern technology in this website, we generated 30,000 letters to Congress in 24 hours. So the campaign's going well, but the hand delivery of the letters is impressive. Give me an example. Senator Ringer wants to know what his constituents say. A ream of paper is 500 pages. It's 2 inches thick. So when we walk into Senator Ringer's office and put 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches of letters on his desk, that's something you can't ignore. That's a physical manifestation of how many people in his state wanted to do that. And that's the reason we're doing it. In the year when we produced 30,000 letters, we were the second largest letter writing campaign for Congress. I think we're about to surpass that.
So those are all the procedural questions, John. Now, content-related questions. What is in the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act that is going to bring the relief that so many amateur radio operators are hoping for?
I'll answer that, but before I do, let me explain to those who don't live in an HOA why we're doing this. Since the 60s and 70s, after the war, housing developments have been, with the permission of state law, Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, and matter, have been very organized. The states have permitted developers to create a block of land and put restrictions on it. It's kind of like a tattoo. Those restrictions would tell Hoffman Homes that if they want to build a home in that subdivision, it would have to have 2,000 square feet, 75% brick, asphalt shingles, one tree in the front yard, one tree in the back, whatever. There's no problem with those. But they added what they call use restrictions. All these are called deed declarations, covenants, conditions, restrictions, doesn't matter. They're still poison. The use restrictions actually prohibit you as a homeowner or a renter from doing something. Florida, California, and Texas were the first three states to mandate public buildings be built with solar panels. California almost mandated residential solar. Texas did it when my legislative team got a bill passed that permitted homeowners to put solar panels in. Under these use restrictions, they're prohibited. They're still prohibited through most of the country. There's no reason to do that, but they do. They prohibited flagpoles and flags. You can go on a long list, but the thing that bothers us, the thing that is going to choke out amateur radio, are the restrictions that prohibit any homeowner, condo, townhome, it doesn't matter, installing antennas outside of a residence. Doesn't matter size, color, none. And if our job is to, and your division has seen this with Helene and Milton, is to provide a free volunteer emergency communication service in the event of disasters, you can't do it, kids. You can't get trained on how to run a radio. You can't have a facility to do it unless you can put up an antenna. There is an article which I'm going to give to Bill and Jim from a amateur radio operator in the Helene storm. He was one of those whose area was completely wiped out. The only communications his town had for some time was amateur radio because he was talking to people outside. And that's proven in Katrina, Rita, Ike, pick a disaster, it's proven. But we can't do that anymore. So unless we want to quit working from home, we want to huddle out in a field somewhere, or we want to try and make it work from the back of our Ford F-150, we've got to get a law passed that eliminates restrictions. Congress has done this before. In 1996, Congress was asked by the broadcast networks, the satellite TV companies, and internet companies to fix that problem. Section 207 of the Telecommunications Act was adopted, which ordered the FCC to pass regulations that eliminated all private land use restrictions on TV antennas, including masts and towers, on satellite TV dishes, and it was expanded to include wireless broadband antennas. It originally was limited to video streaming. Now it will permit retransmission of signals. But the people asking for that was not amateur radio. It was the big broadcast TV networks and satellite TV networks. So it's limited to video. Amateur radio wasn't included. We've asked Congress since then, we've asked the FCC, would you please include us and add us? And the response is no. We don't think we have the authority to do it because the authority for OTARD, the over-the-air reception device rules that eliminated the restrictions on video streaming, came from a congressional mandate. If Congress orders us to do it, we will do it. If you look at the bills, 1094 and 459, they're identical. That's what it does. It says FCC, go do it. Now, what does the bill actually do? And if you would put up slide number 9, there we go. And by the way, what you're seeing is part of a PDF slide deck that we give to congressmen and congresswomen and senators when we go meet with them. This is the heart of the bill. It says any private land use restriction that prohibits an amateur radio operator from installing any amateur radio station that may not be adopted, or if it exists, it may not be enforced. That is the heart of the bill. There are other provisions that deal with procedural issues under federal law that clarify that if you rent property, you are entitled to put up antennas until you leave. There are provisions for permission to use these use antennas in timeshare facilities. There are procedural guidelines for how you install the antennas, certain restrictions. There is also a provision that says that, just like OTAR, there are certain antennas you don't have to ask for permission for. Most HOAs want you to ask for permission for anything. There is a section of the bill that says you don't have to. And if you would slide to do number 10, then do number 11. This is what the bill does. We're not asking for anything that doesn't exist under federal law. We're asking Congress to extend federal law to amateur radio operators. How can we say that? Look at that. That is a legal tower and antenna in the backyard of a home. I think it's in Massachusetts, but I could be wrong. Why is it legal? Because under Section 207 of the Telecommunications Act, the OTAR rules state that you may put up a TV antenna and tower, or you can put it on a mast, put it on the roof, doesn't matter. You don't have to ask for permission. There's no limit on number or height. If that is a legal TV tower, and it is, and anyone on this call with an amateur radio license puts the same thing up and tells their HOA, or they find out you're an amateur radio operator, Dan Ringer and I will make money because you're going to get sued, and the HOA will win. Now, if it's permissive, if that is legal, why isn't it legal for us to do it? Makes no sense that we can't. What else is legal? What else are we using to engraft amateur radio onto it? Do slide 12. It's not like dishes. If you live in a subdivision outside of a major city, these things are like roaches everywhere. If you put that up, you don't have to ask for permission. You can have 5 of them. You can paint them pink. It doesn't matter. There's no question. This one's been modified. Take a look at that. Modified to work on UHF. If your HOA finds out that that is an amateur radio antenna and not just TV, they will sue you. Dan and I get to make money because we're going to defend you, and you're going to lose. So if that's legal and it causes no harm, it's a benefit to society, why can't amateur radio do the same thing? What other federal law are we extending amateur radio? Go to the next slide, please. That is a freestanding 33-foot flagpole in the backyard of a Nashville, Virginia subdivision. It's a flagpole. When the homeowner asked for permission to put it up, the HOA said, sure, it's great. We have 5 in our others' neighborhood. Go. Then he amended the application and said, oh, by the way, it's a dual-use flagpole. That is an amateur radio antenna and a flagpole. It's a working flagpole. They threatened to sue him. They were persuaded to back off. Congress in 2005 got tired of people, or cities and counties and HOAs, telling citizens, everyone on this call, that you can't display the American flag. So they passed the 2005 American Right to Freedom to Display American Flag Act. And it says simply, you may not prohibit the display of the American flag. How do you display one? Well, you can hire Bill Maureen and have him stand in the yard and hold up the flag, but Bill will get tired. He charges too much. So you use a flagpole, freestanding flagpole. Case law has held that the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act means exactly what it says. You have the right to put up a flagpole. You're not limited in height. You're not limited in location. And that is perfectly legal. It doesn't cause any harm. So if that can be a flagpole, why can't we use it for an antenna? That's what the bill does. It merely extends existing federal law to amateur radio. We're changing the labels. If you can have that TV tower we showed you, by the way, it's a 40-foot tower sitting in that backyard, around 25, sitting at 4 by 4 by 5 feet of concrete, I think. If you can do that, why can't you use it for amateur radio? If you can put up a satellite dish, why can't you use it for amateur radio? If you have the right to display the American flag, why can't you make that flagpole do something that's additionally beneficial? The only thing the law does, go to the next slide. Not everyone can afford these dual-use flagpoles. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are 3 companies that make them right now. Tallest one is 32 feet tall. They cost $800 to $1,200. The satellite dish, of course, is free. Modifying it takes a little effort. Anyone who's put up a Roan 25 that's 40 feet plus tall knows how much they cost. Not every one of our members can afford those. So in order to make it possible for everyone to get on the air, the bill says you can use wires. They're not the best antennas. They don't work that well, but at least the permission to get on the air. We have a lot of these that are illegal throughout the United States right now. And the bill has a retroactive provision. If you're legal now, or if you have these, they're going to be legal after we pass the bill. And one more, if you slide down to 16. There you go. Bill and Jim can share this with you, but this is a list of use restrictions that have been stricken by state and federal law. We can go into it later. Drop it, and you can take it off the screen now. Okay. Now, why do we think this would be good? Because it saves amateur radio. Has Congress spoken about amateur radio before? Yes. In 1994, Congress passed a joint resolution, Senate and House, that said reasonable accommodation should be granted to amateur radio in their residences as a public benefit. We know we provide a public benefit. If you talk to people at FEMA, they'll tell you that we are critical to emergency response. When COVID hit and CISA was asked to designate critical infrastructure, amateur radio was included. Some states actually issued specific orders that critical infrastructure included amateur radio. History tells us that we are. So this is what the bill does. It's why we believe it's reasonable, because all we're doing is changing labels. But it will not pass unless everyone within the sound of my voice goes and does a letter. Now, you can give us $100,000, by the way, it would help a lot too. But short of that, it's simple. Just go to the website, enter your call sign, click send my letters, and give us the ammunition we need to go to Congress. It's that simple. And the website actually asks the question, will my single letter count? Yes.
And John, I want to remind, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just want to remind our viewers tonight, our members, that this email for inviting people tonight went out to ARRL members. However, especially after we're done with the live show and it's available for replay on YouTube, send it to all your ham buddies, including those who are not ARRL members. This is a volume game. The more letters we generate, the better the chances.
Yeah, and Jack is nodding his head. It's a numbers game. If Jack walks into Senator's office, it's one vote. If Jack walks in with 8 inches of letters, that's a lot of votes. So volume count.
John,
yes, go.
I'll just say we're winding down, so I'm hoping that you might be able to provide a bit of a summary.
You talk to Dan Ringer. We're both attorneys. Summaries take about 2 hours, folks. But at your request, and as a courtesy, what we've covered is it. The legislation has cost us millions of dollars. In the past 3 years alone, we spent over $1.5 million. So it's not an idle thought. It's not an accidental enterprise. It's not an afterthought. This is important enough for amateur radio. We are spending the money to do that. We're not asking for any more money. We're just spending it to get it done. We have a chance. We have some very strong sponsors. Senator Wicker in Blumenthal has sponsored our legislation since 2014. Joe Courtney out of Connecticut Congressman Courtney has done it also. And we've got other sponsors now, including now Congressman Pfluger out of Texas, picked up after Bill Johnson. We have a chance. No matter how hard any of the people on your screen on the left-hand side work, we can't get it done without your support. You don't have to be a member of the league. You don't even have to like Bill or Jim. You just need to go send a letter. Ask your friends who aren't league members. There are more non-league members than there are league members. And we're doing it not just for the members, we're doing it for everybody. So if you've got questions after this is over, you can contact me, N5AUS at n5aus.com. You can talk to Bill or Jim or your section manager. That's where we are. That's the reason we're here, and that's the reason we're asking go send the letters.
John, we hold these seminars, these workshops to 1 hour, so I'm going to give you the virtual hook. However, this has been a magnificent presentation and a great overview, and I've got to give you a tip of my hat, along with everybody else, for your dedication in moving this along, and I certainly hope that we will get the response necessary to prevail.
Let's hope so. But thank all of you for permitting me to show up and discuss the bill.
All right. Thank you very much. John Robert Stratton, N5AUS, West Gulf Division Director for ARRL, but most importantly, the gentleman spearheading the grassroots campaign for the passage of the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act. John, we're just absolutely flattered to have you this evening. Thank you so much. I don't know if that was applause or rain. That was. And John, you're welcome to stick around, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. At this point, we turn over to our section managers. So all 4 section managers can let everyone in the division know what's going on in their respective states. Tonight, we're kicking off with the Palmetto State. And with Matthew, you've got the South Carolina Section Convention coming up this Saturday.
Yes, that's true. But I do want to echo Bill. John, thank you for presenting tonight for us and everything you're doing. And like I said, hopefully we'll get some positive progress. But yeah, as Bill was saying, the Rock Hill Ham Fest, which is the section convention, is coming up this Saturday, October the 4th, 8 to 2. So definitely, feel free to come on out. Love to see as many people as we can to get out there. It's put on by the York County Amateur Radio Society. So thank you to YCARS, Theo, and everybody that's been helping him get it together. Always a great showing. Like I said, I'll be there with the booth, and our section emergency coordinator, Robert Webster, will be there as well. So if you have lead questions or Aries questions, come by the booth, talk to us. Be glad to see you. So looking forward to that. Also, there will be some forums a little later, about 10:30 or 11. They got a VE session that morning. So after the VE session, so like I said, we'll do a little presentation in one of the rooms. So definitely hope to see everyone out there. And then good news is, following that weekend, the Dutch Fork Amateur Radio Group in Little Mountain, South Carolina, is doing their first swap meet tailgate, hoping to make it an annual event. So come out to that as well if you're in the area or feel like traveling. And then also, New Year's right around the corner. Already looking forward to Greenwood's release their date for the Gars Fest, January the 10th of next year. So we'll be wrapping up this year soon, and already looking forward to Greenwood coming up at the beginning of the year. I know a lot of y'all have already heard a lot about the Year of the Club coming up next year. So I do want to say, love to see as many clubs participate in that as possible. Please make sure your information is up to date on the ARRL website on the Find a Club. If you are not listed, you're not affiliated, or your affiliation has lapsed due to not updating your annual report. So please get with Carl, W4IXI, Whiskey 4 India X-Ray India, or myself to get your annual report updated so we can get you reactivated back on the website. Or if you've never been affiliated, definitely get with Carl or myself, and we can help you through the steps of the application to get you affiliated. Definitely after the Parks on the Air event years ago, Volunteers on the Air a couple years ago, definitely looking forward to the club event coming up. And actually, Bill, that's pretty much all I have. Just looking forward to Hamfest and hope to see a lot of y'all out there.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. You have not mastered the word of next year, which is semi-quincentennial.
Yes, I was going to leave that one alone.
I've been rehearsing for a week, so in case you're wondering why, it rolls off my tongue. Thank you very much for that, and hope you have a good turnout this weekend at Rock Hill at the Covenant Baptist Church on Celanese Road. All right, let's move to the Tar Heel State and Mr. Marv Hoffman, WA4NC. Marv, what's going on in the great North State? Marv, you there? Brad, can we bring Marv in?
Marv is there, but he's not there. Apparently, the fog has messed up his internet.
All right.
We did have a couple questions from the chat for John Robert. If you wanted to slide that in, maybe Marv would come back.
Yeah, let's do that. What questions for John Roberts, since he's still with us?
The answer to the question, Scott, is there's no deadline. The first batch of letters will be delivered in about a week to Congress. It's a huge undertaking, but we'll start delivering the letters in a week, but we won't stop. The website is very expensive and very sophisticated. We can pull letters by congressman, senator, by date range. So if we start delivering letters, say on this coming Friday, then we can still next week pull the letters that came in after Friday. So there's no actual deadline. We're going to keep delivering letters to the end of the year. So don't worry about it. The answer to the question, Luke, 0. There was, Barry Goldwater was there. He was, of course, a amateur radio operator, and they actually had an amateur radio station in Congress. Not anymore. We had one ham that retired about 3 years ago, but there are none. There are a lot of staff members that are hams, but elected individuals, no, they're not.
Okay. Thank you for all those comments. It looks like Marv is having technical difficulties, so let's skip over to the Mountaineer State and see what's going on with Dan Ringer, K8WV.
Thank you, Bill. I get a question all the time in West Virginia about how does this affect me, these restrictions on amateur antennas and that sort of thing. And the answer is you may not know. The first time you hear something about having an antenna that you're not supposed to have is when somebody knocks on your door and says, I'm from the Homeowners Association, take it down. I have found, I used to do quite a bit of real estate work. And what I found is that real estate sales agents, real estate brokers don't have the foggiest idea of what amateur radio is. And they do not know how to tell you that there are laws that may affect you. You can ask them point directly, is there any prohibition about me putting up an antenna or a tower or anything else on this property if I buy it? And most likely they'll say no, because they have to have an answer and they really, really, really want you to buy that property. In fact, when you go to the closing to buy a piece of real estate, you do not have any legal representation or any competent source of information to protect you. There'll be a lawyer there. Almost certainly that lawyer represents the bank that's making the loan to you. There'll be real estate salespeople. All they want to do is get their commission. There'll be a seller. The seller wants you to buy that property. They'll tell you anything you want to hear and probably not intentionally commit fraud, but they'll be negligently fraudulent. The only way you can be absolutely sure that your property or your prospective property is not affected by rules and regulations, covenants and conditions that would affect amateur radio is to hire your own lawyer to go and do a title search for you. Then they are your lawyer, they represent you, and they can be held responsible for missing it. Why is it so difficult? Because in different areas, we have different rules for doing a title search. How far back do we look to see when people were doing what they were doing and what they might prohibit? The house I live in right now was built in 1908. It's a lovely old house, big house, but I can't have hogs. It's written in the chain of title to my property that I will not have hogs, and I think maybe also chickens. Chickens are real popular these days in West Virginia in your yard, but I can't have them, and I can't have hogs. How do I know that? Well, I go back 100 years in the title. Each time the property sells, there is a copy of the deed recorded at the courthouse. And in those deeds, sometimes it says you can't have hogs. Sometimes it says you can't sell the property to a member of the Italian race. I've seen that. And of course, racial minorities were prohibited in many, many properties. The Supreme Court of the United States has declared that to be unlawful. They can't do that anymore. But they can still tell you you can or can't have hogs. And sometimes it just says this property is governed by the covenants and conditions of the upper colon homeowners association, or any homeowners association that incorporates or refers to this property. And that invariably is a separate document. And you have to be on alert to go look for that separate document before you find out. Now, it may be that the homeowners association itself says you can't sell a piece of property in this division without giving the owner or the prospective buyer a copy of the covenants and conditions so that they can read through it. And that's terrific if they give it to you. But if they don't give it to you and you buy the property and then you find out it's still those covenants and conditions exist and the secret rules and regulations apply to your property, what are you going to do? You can file a lawsuit. And as John said, he and I will make money over that because lawsuits are expensive. They take months, if not years, to bring to fruition. So this is a very, very delicate thing. What we really want to have is a national, universal, intergalactic rule somewhere that says amateur radio is okay. And invariably there'll be a statement of reasons associated with the bill that enacts whatever the law, rule, or regulation might be, statement of intent. And that will explain in more detail why the rule is being adopted. And that's very important. But all of these things only count when a judge looks at them and says, yeah, you're okay. You didn't know about it, but you're okay. That's what these things say. And you will have the pleasure of spending a lot of money to get there. And I'm sorry.
Do a thorough investigation. And
hire somebody who can do a thorough investigation. I've seen too many people go to the courthouse and say, I want to do the title myself on a house that I'm getting ready to buy. Bad. Many Supreme Courts, including the one in West Virginia, has literally said the person who represents himself has a fool for a client and a fool for a representative or lawyer. They've said that. It's written in court opinions all over the nation. And take it for real. When I bought my house, I hired a lawyer to do the title because I was only I want to buy this house.
And you raise excellent points of doing diligence. My only sadness out of this discussion with you is that you're not allowed to have chickens, and I wish there was a way that you could cry foul.
It was a foul rule.
So, anything else going on in West Virginia you'd like to share with the crowd?
We're at the end of the Hamfest season. We have one more on October the 11th over in the Parkersburg, Wood County area. It's a small Hamfest, but it's a nice Hamfest. And I would encourage anyone who has still got the Hamfest bug to get over there. There are going to be bargains aplenty, I'm sure, and there'll be some forums to take up. And I plan to go, and I'd be happy to talk with you about all this.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Dan. And last but not least, the Old Dominion State. Jack, tell us what's going on in the Commonwealth. Oh, are you muted?
I am, and even when I'm back, it doesn't help a lot. So, we're also at the end of the Hamfest season. There are 2 for next year, and already February and April, and of course that's really pretty much it right now. We're winding down, for the winter, and I know there's a lot of POTA and SOTA operators out there, keeping busy and keeping trying to get some activity going, and I'm going to chime in real quick on what Dan and John Stratton said about the HOAs. Is when we got our house or that we're in now, we would not do anything until they provided all the documentation and we could go back and see it and review it. And that's worked to our benefit because fortunately we don't have anything. But in particular, I mean, it is an HOA, but it's pretty much just for road maintenance. And but we're very fortunate in that regard. but I also would mention to check your local county, and in case of Virginia, independent city ordinances. There's a lot of them in Virginia that are contrary to the state constitution, including where I live. And the thing is that they know that, and they're trying to use that as a disincentive. So just be prepared for that as well. And real quick, just as a reminder, I'm not running for re-election, and if anyone's interested, they need to go to the ARRL website, research what needs to be done to run, and get that out. I'm not allowed to help you a whole lot other than point you toward the website if you're interested. And that's it. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you. I know Jim joins me along with the other section managers and everybody in the Commonwealth in thanking you for your dedication and service to the Virginia section. And we wish you all the best going forward. All right. The anchor man on tonight's relay is Dr. Jim, the division director. Jim, you had a couple of things I think you wanted to share to wrap things up tonight.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank my fellow director, John Robert Stratton, for coming on, and also his diligence in working through all of this. This has been quite an arduous procedure, and it's gone on for so many years, but we're finally bringing it to fruition, and I thank him very much. Bill, I also have to thank you for all that you're doing for the Roanoke Division Town Hall and emceeing, because you do an excellent job. And of course, I thank our 4 section managers. I'm sorry that Marv dropped out. I think he was having internet problems. But thank all of you for your hard work. And Jack, I know that you're kind of in a place now that you do need to step down, but I thank you for all of your dedicated service. Well, I wanted just to mention a few things, and that is, I live on a postage stamp downtown spot, and I did what our 2 attorneys said, and that is that I hired an attorney to go through a title search, because even though I'm not in a technical historic district, I'm kind of in a side historic district, and I just had to make sure that I was going to be able to put a tower, and that worked out for me very well. The other thing that I usually will tell people, they say, well, if you want to do amateur radio, you shouldn't buy an HOA. Well, that's kind of a ridiculous statement, because hams aren't selfish. They buy their homes for the school district they're going to be in, how close they're going to work, and a good living situation for their wife and children, or husband and children. So when they say to me, well, I don't live in an HOA, I said, you very well might, because I've known so many people that have got old to the point that they want to live with their kids or live in an area where their kids are, so that they can get a little bit of assistance, and they might have to end up in an HOA or a senior living situation. So this really applies to everybody. It may not apply to you right at this point in time, but it will apply to you at some time, possibly in the future. The few other things I wanted to say, I wanted to bring up a gem. I just saw something on the screen that talked about the Shelby Hamfest. Funny thing happened to me at the Shelby Hamfest, and it wasn't at the Hamfest, is when I was in the room, and it was about 11 o'clock, and I noticed that our CEO David Minster was going to give a talk on DX Mentor, and this was on the August 28th ARRL letter. Please look that up, and please click on that link. If there is anything that you want to know about what's going on in the league, I started watching at 11 o'clock, and I was just going to cut off after about 10 minutes. I watched the entire 2 hours. That is a rare gem. So please go ahead and look at that. And the other thing I wanted to say, Bill, is we have an excellent Roanoke Division newsletter that came out with all the information that's going on in the Roanoke Division, as well as all of the contests, all of the new things that are going to be coming for the year of the club next year in 2026. And there's another gem I would like everyone to look at, and that's Radio Alpha. The league now has a historic website which I spent an hour or two on last night, where basically their idea is to get every rig that they possibly can get on there, show it from several views, a schematic, and I guess eventually an operating manual. It has been a huge effort. So I went back and looked at every one of my old pieces of equipment, and pretty amazed. Some of them were in good condition, some of them weren't, but I think it is a great resource. So again, thanks to all, and Bill, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thanks, Jim. And I know you'll be at the Rock Hill Hamfest, the South Carolina State Convention this weekend in Rock Hill.
Yep.
So, hey, we're getting close to the top of the hour. So before we lose the time, a couple of things. I think we need to give a big shout out to our producer, Brad Humphreys, AE4VJ. Brad, come on camera, would you? There, come on, get yourself big. Don't be shy. There you are.
Are you happy now?
Yes, and thank you for your stellar work. These productions are. Yeah, I know. Look at the time. We got to go. But so. Thank you very much. And also one more thing. This week marks 1 year since the ravages of Hurricane Helene in really many states, not just North Carolina, although North Carolina took the brunt of it, but so did Virginia, South Carolina, and so did Georgia and Tennessee, which aren't even in our divisions. But right now, because of the stellar work that was done at the Mount Mitchell repeater, 14519 in Mount Mitchell, there is a special event station this week, and you can connect to it by Echolink. So if you'd like more information, I'd like to just chime in and thank all the people that did that heroic work. Go to the special event station on QRZ, N2G, November 2 Gulf. They're going to be on through this Friday. And once again, I want to thank John Robert Stratton, N5 AUS, for joining us tonight. John, a real clap and thank you so much, and for your continuing effort on the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act. More rain. All right. Thank you very much, John. Hi. Brad, how are we? We getting down to rollout time? We have time for a couple of questions. Anything in the Q&A?
We got 5 minutes, so if you want to ask for questions, you can go ahead and do that, and we'll let them start rolling.
Yeah.
I think most people were intently listening because it was pretty well articulated on what we got to do and what everything covers. And with the QR codes, with the links to what we need everybody to do, I think we're in good shape.
All right. Anybody can chime in with final remarks, especially our guest speaker. John, any closing thoughts? I do want to say before I hand it over to you that once we close, this will immediately go up on YouTube. And I hope you will share this with as many of your fellow licensed amateur radio hams as possible. And don't forget the QR code up in the corner. Please sign up for the campaign. All right.
There's no more I can put on. I'll answer any questions that anyone has. But again, thank you for letting us make this presentation. It's been dedicated work since 2014 and especially since 2019 to get this done. We have a chance.
And since you're from Texas, John, I have to ask this. Over your left shoulder, is that Bob Wills?
It is Hank Williams. It's Hank Williams. The gentleman that drafted that was a client. He was injured in a serious, major auto accident. He went from a PhD candidate to being able to work in a bakery. But his musical talents and artistic talents remain. And he created that with pencil. Wow.
Very, very good. All right. Good to hear from Mark Graham from West Virginia. And I just got a side message for those who want to help out with youth. The annual Scouting JOTA, Jamboree on the Air, will take place the third week in October. Check in your local areas to see if any of your ham clubs are working with your scouting district offices to offer scouts the opportunity to learn more about amateur radio.
Bill, Mike's got a question.
Yes.
Mike, you asked, why did the form letter state I'd be honored to meet with you, your staff within the district? That's because you live in that district or the state, and sometimes congressmen and senators want to come back and meet with people. So we make that offer. It's unlikely that they will accept it, not because they don't like you, it's just because they're a little short on time. And the second half have amateur radio's representatives meet you with you in Washington. If someone receives these letters that we haven't yet to meet with, it says we'll meet with you. We'll sit down and talk to you about the concerns of amateur radio. So it's a courtesy offer that if you're willing to send a letter, you will talk to them. And it's a courtesy that if they want to talk to the representatives we have two lobbying firms along with me. I'm the primary person that goes to DC. We'll sit down and talk to them. It's how you get it done.
All right. Excellent. And Joseph, does the FCC still police the bands?
Are you asking me? Not well enough.
I can probably add a little bit to it. We do have a volunteer monitoring program headed up by Riley Hollingsworth. And if there are concerns, then he's available for you to send him an email. There's the JOTA information. Okay.
All right. How we doing, Brad? We ready to roll? You're muted. Boy, it's fun to say that to you.
It's on purpose.
Yes, the
Yeah, I
professional
think we're-
broadcaster.
Yeah. But remember, I'm behind the scenes. I don't normally drive. I just tell them where to go. So,
All right. Thank you. Should we say thank you and everyone for joining us tonight? And we will be back probably the last week in December with the fourth quarter report of the Roanoke Division Town Hall. Get out to a ham fest, get on the air. Thank you, everybody.
yeah, you guys stick around.
73.